It happened in a private suite above the casino floor in Las Vegas, where the bass from the club downstairs thumped through the walls like a steady warning. Her boyfriend Derek Wynn had brought her up there with a tight grip on her wrist and an apology already forming in his mouth. He kept saying her name as if repetition could soften what he had done. He had lost heavily at the tables. He had borrowed from people who did not forgive. He had run out of options and he had chosen the one that saved him the fastest. Across the room, Roman Vasile waited with his men spaced out behind him. He was tall, sharp in a way that made the air feel smaller. He didn't pace. He didn't bargain. He watched Derek the way a judge watched someone who already knew the verdict. Layla's eyes moved from Derek's face to Roman's, then to the two men by the door. She understood the shape of the trap in one breath. Her throat tightened and her hands began to tremble, and she did what a normal girl would do when the floor fell out from under her. She pulled her wrist free and shoved Derek hard enough to make him stumble. Her voice cracked as she demanded to know what was happening. She hit his chest with both fists. Tears came fast, hot, and humiliating. Derek flinched like he deserved it. Then he reached for her again. "Layla, please listen baby," he said, and his words came out messy. "It's not like that, how you thinking of? It's just for a little while. I swear I'll fix it." Roman didn't react to Derek's promise. He spoke as if he was reading off a contract that had already been signed. "The debt is cleared," Roman said. "She comes with me tonight." The sentence landed and stayed there. Layla turned fully toward Derek then. Her face was wet. Her breath kept catching. She looked at him like she was waiting for him to deny it, to laugh, to reveal it as a sick joke. Derek's eyes flicked away, and that small movement ended her hope. She made a sound that wasn't a scream, just a raw exhale that turned into rage. She slapped Derek first, then swung again, hitting his shoulder. He raised his arms to block, saying her name like it was a prayer. It didn't help him. She bolted for the door. One of Roman's men shifted to cut her off. Layla tried to squeeze past anyway. Her hands pushed against a solid chest. She clawed at a sleeve. She kicked back once to break free. Another man stepped in. In seconds, she was trapped between bodies that didn't need to touch her hard to stop her. "Don't," she choked out, and her voice sounded small in the room. "Please don't do this. I didn't agree to anything." Roman's gaze stayed on her. His expression didn't soften, but his attention sharpened, like he was cataloging every detail. The tears. The shaking hands. The way she kept glancing at the exits even while she begged. "You didn't need to agree," Layla stared him when Roman said. She was stunned by how casually he said it. She tried again, switching to reason because panic wasn't working. She spoke faster, saying she could pay, saying Derek could work it off, saying there had to be another way. She offered promises she didn't even believe. She reached for anything that sounded like a solution. Derek kept talking too, trying to smooth the edges of his own betrayal. He told Roman he would make payments, that he was good for it, that he was just going through a rough patch. Roman finally looked at Derek like he was an insect that wouldn't stop buzzing. "You already paid," Roman said. Derek swallowed and nodded too quickly. He was sweating through his shirt. His hands were red from where Layla had hit him. He didn't look like a man who had won anything. He looked like a man who had survived at someone else's expense. Layla's breathing turned ragged. She stopped pleading and went quiet for 1 second. Her eyes dropped to Derek's watch, then to Roman's cufflinks, then to the phones in the hands of the guards near the wall. It was a quick scan, the kind people didn't notice. Then she turned back into the moment, shaking again as if that pause had never happened. Roman nodded once toward the door. They moved her out of the suite and down a back hallway that avoided the main crowd. Layla twisted her shoulders. She tried to drag her feet. She tried to grab a door handle. Someone's hand caught her elbow and guided her forward, firm and controlled. Derek followed, half a step behind, talking like he was still part of her life. "Layla, I'm sorry," he said louder now. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I'll get you back. I swear I will." She looked straight at Derek. Her mascara ran down her cheeks. Her face was flushed. Her voice came out clear despite the tears. "You don't get to say you'll get me back," she said. "You already gave me away, brat." Roman watched that exchange without interrupting. It wasn't kindness. At the elevator, Roman's men formed a quiet wall around Layla. The doors slid shut and the casino noise disappeared. In the reflective metal, Layla caught a glimpse of herself. The trembling. The swollen eyes. The messy hair. The picture of a girl who had been pulled into something too big. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and tried to steady her breathing. The guard beside her looked away as if he didn't want to notice her humanity. Roman's eyes stayed forward. He didn't offer comfort. In his world, Comfort was not part of the transaction. Outside, Roman's car waited in a private bay. Layla resisted again when they tried to guide her in. She planted her feet and tried to twist away. Her shoulders tensed. Her hands pushed against the doorframe. Roman stepped closer. He didn't grab her. He didn't raise his voice. He leaned down slightly so his words reached only her. "Get in," he said. "This ends clean if you stop making it messy." Layla stared up at him. Up close he looked even more unmovable. His face stayed controlled but his patience felt thin under it like steel covered in velvet. She got in because she understood there was no winning in the parking lot. The drive out of the strip happened fast. Neon faded into streetlights. The city loosened its grip, and the road opened toward the quiet edge of Henderson where houses sat behind gates and palm shadows moved in the wind. Layla sat in the back seat with her hands clenched in her lap. Every few minutes she shifted like her body still believed it could run. She stared out the window and blinked hard to stop more tears. When the driver checked the rearview mirror, she let her face collapse again. But once, when the driver's attention returned to the road, her gaze sharpened. She looked at the turns. She watched the gate code being entered ahead. She noticed the camera angle above the driveway. It lasted only a moment. The mansion wasn't described to impress anyone. It was simply large, quiet, and run like a place that had never been told no. Staff moved without speaking much. Nobody asked Layla's name. They already knew her role. Roman's men walked her inside and stopped near a wide hallway. Roman spoke to a woman in a black blazer, someone who looked like she managed the house with a clipboard mindset and a soft step. "Guest suite," Roman said. "No one bothers her unless I say so." Layla expected him to call her property but he didn't. The woman nodded and guided Layla upstairs. Layla tried to stop twice. She tried to push past the woman once. It didn't work. The guards didn't touch her harshly, but their presence blocked every angle. In the guest room, Layla turned in a circle like she was searching for a window that opened, a door that didn't lock, a way out that wasn't watched. Her breath came fast. She pressed her palm to her mouth to muffle the sound of her own crying. The woman placed a bottle of water on the dresser and kept her voice level. "If you need something you can ask," she said. "But don't try to be smart. If you'll try to run it will get worse." Layla's head snapped up. "Worse how?" The woman didn't answer. She simply left, closing the door behind her with a quiet final click. Layla rushed to the handle. It opened. She stepped into the hallway. Two guards stood at a distance, not in her face but close enough to make the message clear. They weren't threatening her with fists. They were threatening her with certainty. She backed into the room again and the door stayed open, which somehow made it feel even more controlled. Later Roman came. He didn't announce himself. He entered with the same calm he had in the casino suite, like the whole world had been arranged to suit his timing. Layla jumped to her feet. Her eyes flashed with fear and anger. She took 2 steps back until her spine met the wall near the window. Her hands lifted slightly, ready to push him away if he came closer. Roman looked at her for a beat, then stopped at a distance that felt deliberate. "This is your room," he said. "You will be treated with respect if you behave like a good girl." Layla's laugh came out broken. "You bought me. Don't talk about respect." Roman's jaw tightened. He moved his gaze over her face again. His attention carried weight, the kind that could feel like hands without ever touching. Layla swallowed hard. "I'm not doing anything for you," she said. Roman took 1 step forward and the air shifted with it. He didn't smile but his tone lowered, almost intimate, almost coaxing. "You think you get to decide that? You're here because I decided." Layla's breath hitched. She pushed off the wall and moved fast, closing the distance in a sudden burst, like anger had given her legs strength. Her palm met his cheek with a sharp crack. The sound snapped through the room and into the hallway. For half a second, everything went still. Roman was not expecting that. He did not even think about that in his dream that a tiny poor girl will slap her. The doorframe filled with movement as guards surged in, with hard eyes, their hands started lifting. Layla stood frozen in front of Roman, her face was wet again, but her eyes stayed up, refusing to drop. It looked like defiance. It also looked like someone who had just stepped off a cliff and decided to stare down the fall. He raised one hand, the guards stopped immediately as if their bodies belonged to his signal. Roman's face held anger now. It wasn't loud, tight around the mouth, sharp in the eyes. He looked at Layla as she had done something no one had ever dared to do. In the hallway the staff and guards stayed perfectly still, waiting for the consequence. Roman didn't strike her. He didn't order anyone to. He let the silence stretch until Layla's breathing became the loudest thing in the room. Then he spoke, and his voice stayed calm enough to scare people more than shouting ever could. "Everyone out," Roman said. No one moved until he glanced toward the door. Then the room cleared fast, footsteps pulling away like a tide retreating. Layla didn't sit. She didn't beg. She stayed standing, hands clenched, watching him the way a cornered animal watched the person holding the leash. Roman studied her again, and something in his expression shifted. "You want to be brave? Fine. You'll keep being brave." He stepped back and gestured toward the open doorway. "You'll keep the door open," he said. "You'll eat when food comes. You'll sleep when you can. You'll do everything in this house with people watching you. You'll learn how it feels to have no privacy, no control, and no one believing your tears are real." Layla's lips parted. Her eyes widened slightly. It wasn't fear of being hit. It was fear of being trapped inside her own emotions with nowhere to hide them. Roman watched that reaction closely, like he was measuring it. He turned to leave, then paused at the threshold. "If you slap me again," he said with clenched jaw, "you'll regret it for your whole life." Layla stayed standing for several seconds, staring at the empty doorway, as if her body couldn't decide whether to collapse or chase him. When footsteps faded down the hall, she finally moved. She crossed the room slowly and shut the door halfway, leaving it cracked exactly as he had ordered. She leaned her forehead against the edge of it and let her shoulders shake again, loud enough for anyone passing to hear. Life inside Roman Vasile's mansion did not begin with violence. It began with silence. The morning after the slap, Layla Hart woke in a room that did not belong to her, inside a house that moved according to rules she had not agreed to. The door remained slightly open as Roman had ordered. A guard passed the hallway every few minutes. Meals arrived on time. No one spoke more than necessary. Everything was controlled. And everything was observed. She refused food at first. She cried openly when staff entered. She avoided eye contact. When footsteps approached her door, her shoulders tightened and her breathing grew uneven. The house began to treat her like fragile glass. And Roman noticed it. He did not come often during those first days. When he did, he never touched her. He never raised his voice. He simply watched her. He studied the way she reacted to proximity, the way her hands trembled when he stood too close, the way she stepped back as if contact itself would break her like a glass. To Roman, fear was familiar. He had built his life around controlling it in others. Yet something about Layla's reactions drew more attention than expected. Her fear appeared raw, almost painful to observe. He adjusted her restrictions. The guard stopped standing directly at her door. The house manager began speaking to her with quiet politeness. She was allowed to walk certain parts of the property with supervision. Small freedoms appeared gradually, presented like acts of mercy. Layla received them like someone too exhausted to question kindness. She moved carefully through the halls, always looking uncertain, always asking permission before crossing a boundary. Her voice remained soft. Her hands often shook when she reached for simple things like a glass of water. Roman watched the change in himself before he acknowledged it. He began checking on her personally. One afternoon he found her standing near a window overlooking the garden, staring outside as if measuring distance. She turned when she sensed him, and the tension returned instantly to her posture. "You don't need to ask before walking here," Roman told her. Layla kept her distance. "I didn't know what was allowed." Her voice carried restraint, but beneath it lived a careful awareness. Roman noticed she observed everything, where staff stood, which doors remained locked, how the security cameras shifted direction. She looked frightened. Fear and observation rarely existed together. Roman said nothing about it. Days became structured. Layla ate at regular times. She slept unevenly. Sometimes staff heard her crying late at night. Other nights she walked quietly through permitted corridors, pausing when guards passed, lowering her gaze like someone trained by humiliation. Roman's treatment toward her softened in visible ways. He instructed the household to treat her with dignity. He ensured no rumors about her circulated outside the estate. He removed unnecessary surveillance from her immediate space. The house adjusted to her presence. And slowly she adjusted to the house. Their conversations began short but meaningful. Layla stopped avoiding him completely. She asked direct questions, never emotional ones, always practical. "Why did you keep me here if I'm not useful to you?" she asked once. Roman answered with calm honesty. "You are the resolution of a problem. Problems are managed, not discarded." She absorbed the answer quietly, yet her eyes studied him as if searching for something beneath the words. Through daily interaction, Layla began to understand the structure of Roman's world. His authority did not rely on shouting. He maintained order through discipline. Staff respected him with a seriousness that came from experience, not fear alone. Payments were precise. Decisions were final. Loyalty was rewarded. Betrayal was removed. His life followed routine. Early mornings. Long meetings. Silent dinners. Late nights alone in his office. He lived surrounded by people, yet apart from all of them. Layla noticed the distance he kept even when others stood close. She noticed he never allowed personal questions. She noticed he avoided conversations about his past. His control was complete, yet it felt less like strength and more like protection. The house staff whispered fragments of his history. A relationship long ago that ended in betrayal. A period of ruthless expansion afterward. A man who replaced emotional risk with absolute control. Layla listened carefully. She asked nothing directly. Her role in the house shifted gradually. Roman began allowing her presence in common spaces. She joined him for dinner occasionally, always under strict formality. Their conversations grew sharper, more personal. "You believe control protects you," Layla told him during one meal, her voice steady though her hands remained folded tightly together. Roman looked at her without offense. "Control prevents damage." "Damage already happened," she replied quietly. The comment lingered between them. Roman did not answer. Yet something in his posture tightened, as if the observation had reached deeper than expected. Trust began forming in small gestures. He allowed her access to the library. He gave her permission to use a phone under supervision. He stopped monitoring her every movement. Each step strengthened her position inside the house. And with each step, Roman's attention toward her became more personal. He noticed when she appeared tired. He noticed when she avoided certain spaces. He noticed the moments when her fears seemed too carefully timed. Still he said nothing. The turning point came on a quiet afternoon when Layla entered Roman's office looking for a book he had mentioned earlier. The room carried the same controlled atmosphere as the rest of the house. Organized files, locked cabinets, no unnecessary decoration. A drawer remained slightly open. Inside were documents arranged in precise order. Financial investigations. Old case records. Names and dates. Layla's hand froze above the papers when she saw one name. Her father. The air left her lungs in a sharp breath. The files slipped from her fingers and scattered across the desk. Her hands trembled, no longer performed, but shaken by something deeper. Her father had died years ago in what authorities declared a traffic accident. The case had closed quickly. There had been no answers. Seeing his name inside Roman Vasile's private records felt like reopening a wound she had carried silently for years. She entered his office without permission and placed the file in front of him with shaking hands. "Why do you have this?" she asked. Roman's expression hardened slightly. He did not deny the file. He did not pretend ignorance. He studied her face before answering. "Your father investigated financial networks connected to organized crime," Roman said. "His death was not random." The room grew still. Layla stepped back slowly, her breathing uneven. The information struck her like physical force. She had lived years with unanswered questions, and now the truth stood in front of her wearing the face of the man who owned her freedom. "Tell me everything," she demanded. Roman refused at first. He explained that the truth would place her in danger. She insisted. The conversation ended without resolution, but the emotional distance between them changed shape. Layla left the office shaken. That night she did not cry for an audience. She remained alone in her room, staring at the file, absorbing what the discovery meant. What no one in the house knew was that the file did not surprise her. It confirmed something. The audience, and only the audience, began to see the hidden layer of her story. Layla had not entered Roman's world by accident. Years earlier, after her father's death, she had refused to accept the official explanation. She studied financial systems. She learned behavioral psychology. She mapped connections between criminal networks. She searched for a way into Roman Vasile's closed empire. Direct access was impossible. His organization allowed no strangers near its core. So she designed a path. She chose Derek Wynn carefully, a man with charm but no discipline, a man drawn to risk and easy money. She encouraged his ambitions. She introduced him to environments where gambling flourished. She remained supportive as his debts grew. She watched the pressure build until desperation shaped his choices. She did not force him to sell her, but she made sure he believed it was his own decision. Being sold gave her the only entry point no outsider could obtain. Inside the mansion, every tier, Every moment of fear, every sign of vulnerability had purpose. Her mission was simple: uncover the truth about her father's death and dismantle the structure responsible. Yet the plan began to fracture as reality diverged from expectation. Roman Vasile was not the monster she had prepared to destroy. He showed discipline, restraint, and a strange form of respect. He did not exploit her. He protected her dignity within the house. He listened when she spoke. His behavior complicated her objective. The emotional distance she had planned to maintain began weakening. Roman, meanwhile, felt the change in their connection without understanding its cause. He trusted her presence in ways he rarely trusted anyone. He allowed her into discussions. He began sharing fragments of his operations. He found himself seeking her opinion, valuing her perception. Attachment grew quietly between them. Both remained unaware of how dangerous that attachment would become. Time changed the space between them before either of them admitted it. The mansion still followed Roman Vasile's rules, yet something inside its rhythm had shifted. Layla Hart no longer moved through the halls like a frightened guest. She walked with awareness, with purpose, with a quiet confidence that came from understanding the structure around her. And Roman noticed it. He noticed how her questions had become more precise. He noticed how she remembered details from conversations he barely recalled sharing. He noticed how her fear appeared at the right moments, yet disappeared too quickly when she thought no one watched. He did not accuse her. Roman rarely acted without certainty. Instead, he began observing her with the same patience he once used to build his empire. He tested small inconsistencies in her stories. He changed routines without notice. He studied her reactions. Layla sensed the shift in his attention immediately. The silent trust between them began thinning. Their conversations became careful again, filled with pauses where warmth once existed. Distance returned, and this time it carried weight. Roman's suspicion reached clarity one evening when a report arrived describing Derek Wynn's sudden financial improvement after months of reckless loss. The details did not align with chance. Someone had guided Derek's path long before the casino night. Roman closed the file and requested Layla's presence. She entered his office calmly, yet the tension in her shoulders revealed she already understood why she had been called. Roman did not raise his voice. He did not accuse her immediately. He placed several documents on the desk between them and waited until she looked at them. "These patterns are not random," he said quietly. "You did not arrive here by accident." Layla remained silent. Her breathing slowed as if she had prepared for this moment long ago. Roman continued, his tone controlled but heavy with personal betrayal. "You chose Derek. You shaped his debts. You made yourself necessary to his survival. You engineered your own sale." The truth settled into the room like a living thing. Layla did not deny it. She lifted her eyes to meet his and spoke with calm honesty that carried no apology. "My father died investigating people connected to your world," she said. "I needed access. This was the only way inside." Roman's expression remained still, but the stillness held pain beneath it. He had allowed her into his private spaces. He had trusted her presence. He had believed her vulnerability. "You deceived everyone in this house," he said. "I deceived the system, not everything was false," she replied back. Her words created a deeper fracture. Roman turned away briefly, collecting himself. When he faced her again, his voice carried a quiet exhaustion rather than anger. "You should have told me the truth." Layla's composure faltered for the first time. "Would you have let me stay if I told you the truth?" Roman did not answer. The silence itself became the answer. Their confrontation did not end in shouting or punishment. It ended in distance. Roman withdrew emotionally. He no longer invited her into meetings. He reduced their contact to formal interaction. The warmth that had slowly formed between them disappeared behind the same cold discipline that defined his life before she arrived. Layla felt the absence more deeply than she expected. Her mission remained unchanged. She continued reviewing files, tracing financial connections, searching for proof about her father's death. Yet the work felt heavier now, burdened by the knowledge that she had wounded the one person who had shown her unexpected respect. Weeks passed under this strained silence. Then the final truth surfaced. Through Roman's archives and her own investigation, they discovered the reality behind her father's death. A rival organization had orchestrated the murder after her father uncovered their laundering operations. Roman had encountered her father once and warned him of the danger, but he had not ordered his death. The revelation dismantled the foundation of Layla's revenge. The enemy she had prepared herself to destroy was not the man standing before her. The emotional tension reached its peak on a quiet night when Layla entered Roman's office voluntarily. She carried no documents. She brought no arguments. "I built my life around finding answers," she said. "I told myself every choice was necessary. But somewhere along the way things changed." Roman remained seated, his posture rigid, his expression unreadable. "You used me," he replied plainly. "I used the situation," she corrected gently. "But what happened between us became real." The admission hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. Roman stood and walked toward the window, his back turned to her. Years of control had protected him from vulnerability. Now that control was failing. "You planned everything," he said quietly. "You controlled every step." Layla's voice softened. "You allowed it to continue." Roman turned slowly. That was the truth neither could deny. He had recognized inconsistencies. He had sensed her strength. Yet he had chosen not to expose her because her presence had begun to matter. Two strategists had met and lowered their defenses without meaning to. The final decision came days later. Roman summoned Layla to the main entrance of the estate. Her belongings were already prepared. A car waited beyond the gates. He did not speak with anger. He spoke with calm finality. "You are free to leave." He had no expressions on his face. "No conditions. No surveillance and no debt. You can go." The offer restored what had been taken from her the night she was sold, her ability to choose. Layla stood silently, absorbing the meaning of the moment. For the first time since entering his world, nothing forced her to stay. Freedom felt heavier than captivity. She walked toward the gate slowly. Each step carried the weight of her past plan, her father's memory, her desire for justice. She reached the car and placed her hand on the door. Then she stopped. She turned back. Roman remained where he stood, offering no persuasion, no demand, no emotional appeal. His stillness respected her independence more than any declaration of love could. Layla walked back to him. "I came here to find truth," she said quietly. "I found it. And I found something else I didn't expect. I don't know when I felt love for you." The decision shifted everything between them. Their relationship could no longer be defined by debt or manipulation. It became a partnership built through conscious choice. Life in the mansion changed again. Roman no longer treated Layla as a guest or captive. He included her in discussions openly. He allowed her access to information regarding her father's case. He revealed parts of himself he had hidden for years. His fears, his failures, his uncertainty. Layla abandoned performance. She no longer used tears as strategy. She spoke openly when she disagreed. She challenged his decisions. She remained independent within his world.